You remember what you learned in school about the separation of powers? Remember that you learned that there are three co-equal branches of government: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. The president being the executive, the Congress and Senate being the House and Senate being the legislative, and of course the judiciary is the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court has 9 people, 9 unelected people, and somehow we want to believe that these are co-equal branches of the government when that particular branch can dictate anything as constitutional or not as they seem fit. We know they've screwed it up during when it comes to slavery, etc. They screwed up a whole lot of things back there. So why do we have all this faith in this particular body? I don't know. Why don't we have this body more controlled in such a manner that, again, as we've gotten smarter as people, make them more accountable? Well, I want you to listen to this, then let's take it on the other side.
The American people deserve to know that our Supreme Court justices are being held to the highest standards, whether they be justices appointed by Democratic presidents or justices appointed by Republican presidents. It's not enough for us to just trust the court any longer to self-enforce a secret internal code of ethics. The highest court in the land cannot be exempt from the standards that we hold every other federal judge to.
Sounds reasonable enough. Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York. That the 9 justices who are appointed to lifetime assignments on the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court, the people who make decisions that impact the lives of every last one of us, are held to the same ethical standards as every other federal judge. Reaching that point has been a goal of Senator Chris Murphy's. He's introduced legislation in every Congress going back a decade that would require the court to adopt a code of ethics. Today, he put forward his legislation again. NBC News reports this, quote, "The bill, like previous versions, would task the Judicial Conference of the U.S., the policymaking body for federal courts, with issuing within a year of enactment a code of conduct applying to Supreme Court justices. It also contains a new provision that would authorize an ethics investigations lawyer who would have the power to enforce the code." Murphy stresses that enacting this code would make the court look better, not worse, in the eyes of the public, increasing transparency and accountability at a time when only 7% of Americans have a great deal of trust in the court. 7. His push comes as new reporting in the Washington Post reveals this, quote, "The Supreme Court has failed to reach consensus on an ethics code of conduct specific to the 9 justices. That's despite internal discussion dating back at least 4 years. It's according to people familiar with this, although the justices say they voluntarily comply with the same ethical guidelines that apply to other federal judges. The lack of an ethics code has become a prominent complaint on Capitol Hill, where in 2019, Justice Elena Kagan told a congressional committee that Chief Justice John Roberts was seriously studying the issue, but a discussion among the justices failed to produce an agreement. That's according to people familiar with the matter. While the justices are taking their time, agreeing to a set of standards for themselves, we've seen a host of questionable practices, including controversial decisions, leaks, and many potential conflicts of interest. Senator Murphy highlighted one major conflict involving Justice Clarence Thomas.
The spouse of a Supreme Court justice was involved in an effort to organize a coup, an overthrow of a democratically elected president of the United States. That is extraordinary. That is not normal. It should not be treated as just another flavor of legitimate political action. And the fact that there is no clear binding code of conduct that addresses this kind of behavior and no clear standards of recusal for Supreme Court justices that the American people can see and trust is just unacceptable.
Yep, we need some controls on the Supreme Court, no doubt about it. But again, we also need going forward we're going to need some constitutional amendments to neuter this body of 9 people who decides what the hundreds of millions or the tens of millions of Americans what's best for them or what is constitutional towards this document that should be there to protect us all. It's a construct that ultimately speaking is for the few, and that's the few who can get to put their Supreme Court justices on the bench. It is not, I repeat, a democracy. It is, we've been indoctrinated into believing these sort of things. The truth of the matter is the way the Supreme Court system operates in the United States makes it far from that. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.